Alright, my people. Now I would like to speak on hidden growth, opportunities to grow in the dark, in your darkness. You see, the thing that makes me a crazy person, the reason why I'm able to change myself so many times, is that somehow I found a way to not run away from the things that are troubling me the most. I don't run away from my problems, and as a result, I get stronger. This maybe makes me a unicorn, but this power is readily available to all of you. And a lot of you who have great success, who have found great success in any event, perhaps consciously, subconsciously, you have realized this. This is how you're able to redefine what it is to be you. This is how you can reestablish yourself as something greater. This is how you keep growing. Alright? So, if you have subconsciously been doing this, or you haven't been doing this at all, I'm going to put a face to it, so to speak. So basically, in your meditations, this is one of the biggest reasons, one of the greatest reasons why you should be meditating. But in your meditation, everything that you've ever ran from will find a way to meet up with you. If you do it long enough, There's no avoiding yourself when your eyes are closed and you're in a dark room in silence. Or even when you got some instrumentals going. It's going to find a way to find you. This is what is supposed to happen. Alright? And throughout your spiritual journey, once you embark on it, you may come across what they call dark night of the soul. Which I thought was like, yeah, whatever. As I started to read up on what it took to be, just not even what it took, but as I started to read up on taking on a spiritual journey. And I just was reading through all this information, and somewhere in there it talked about dark night of the soul, and I was like, yeah. Just kind of put it behind me. Because I'm like, wait a minute, this spirituality, I was on a high of spirituality. And it wasn't until everything started to hit me at once, and I started to see the darkness in this world, all of the trouble, all of the things that get covered up, easily covered up, and it could be easily missed by the average person. But once I started seeing behind that veil, and I started to notice all of the atrocities in this world at once, it really put me into a deep depression. And at that time, it was a depression unlike any other, man. It was probably some of the worst piece of depression I had at that time. Now, it did get worse. But anyway, at this particular time, it was too much to deal with. But because they don't tell you about this when they say, meditate, and all. And I'm not trying to discourage you, because pain is necessary, especially if you've been kind of like finding ways to put it off. But when you go on this spiritual journey, there will be a process where you have to face all of these demons. And the reason why I am so honest with you all is because I had to find ways to be honest with myself. In fact, I didn't have to find ways to do it. I just had to do it. I just had to be honest. That's it. That was the only way I was going to be able to sleep at night. And I struggled to do that. It was the only way that I was going to make something out of the misery that I have placed myself in. It was the only way that I was going to be able to transcend from such a thing, that I was going to be able to put that behind me. So, with all of these things that you may be facing, all of this adversity, all of the trouble that you may be facing, all of the things that you are putting on the back burner, but it's still burning. if you can, and you can, force yourself to face these things one by one. You prioritize one by one. You write down in your journal all of these things that are troubling you. And you resolve to do what you can about these things, and the things that you can't change, you find ways to cope with them. If you manage to do these things, then you will open up space for you to implement what you can do about these things, and also incorporate other healthy outlets into your life, healthy practices. All right, and so you and we all love these stories. You hear these stories about people like Nelson Mandela, who could go to jail for 27 years, keep his ambition alive, keep his love alive, his excitement towards something, his respect. You hear these stories, and I mean, you read up on him, you see how poorly mistreated he was in prison. 27 years, my friends. 1 year of what he went through is bad enough. How do you make it through 27 years? You have to have a North Star. You gotta have a lighthouse. You gotta have something that's going to guide you to where you need to go. But anyway, we hear these stories about, like I said, like a Nelson Mandela. You hear people come from great odds, and then they rise to among the ranks to a place where most people couldn't even imagine. And we marvel at it, and it's timeless, and we'll never forget it. And we get tattoos of these people, and we write books on them. We keep making movies on them and documentaries, and we almost treat it as if it's an esoteric thing, something that's only reserved for the few. But again, like I said in the beginning of this video, the good news is that story, that triumph, is readily available for you personally. Whoever's listening to this, whoever you can pass this on to. What sets a Nelson Mandela apart from a lot of people who will curl up at the face of tragedy, calamity, and all this, is the great perspective. An interesting thing about a lot of people who do find themselves in prison, who don't have as many distractions, who aren't high and drunk off of all of this life around us, all of these distractions. Like I said, all of these distractions, all of the bells and whistles, because I got to talk about bells and whistles, who have succumbed to consumerism and all these things. Now, when you are in a prison, you don't really have that option. So you take in the few options that you do have, a lot of healthy ones, and a lot of things that you can practice on the outside. So we're exercising, we're meditating, all right, we're reading. So all of those bring about a great opportunity to build perspective. A lot of perspective is made in prison. So you take somebody like a Malcolm X, who was also in prison, took it upon himself to study the dictionary, and really double down on his wisdom. You get a lot of time to think. So make time to think. All right, you may not have as much time to think as somebody in jail. That's without the distractions, because as long as your brain is going, you can think. But you got to be able to consciously, with great intent, apply perspective. All right, to look at every situation that you are in, not trying to look beyond it, not trying to say, well, this is, not even trying to say this is temporary, although it is, and not trying to drown yourself in drugs, in sex, in religion, and anything that becomes a bit of a buffer. All right, Sometimes you have to strip yourself. I can't tell you how often, but sometimes you have to strip yourself of all of your vices, all of the things that you abuse, all the things that get in the way of the truth, all of the things that get in the way of healthy coping mechanisms. If it's stopping you from seeing things as they are, so see things as they are. A great prerequisite for growth. And from there is no cap on your potential, how high you can climb. Alright? So this is one of the biggest things that I live by, one of the greatest philosophies that I do live by. I obviously recommend this to everyone. I don't know where my life would be if I didn't take on this philosophy. So give it a try. For some of you, you probably already are, but this is the great reminder that if you are practicing this, you are on the right path. And once you get all of this down, then of course the next aspect is to take action. Alright? And keep reflecting. Keep reflecting. Never stop reflecting. Once you get up, you don't want to be so far in the clouds that you forget to put your feet on the ground. Stay grounded, but keep your head to the sky. Alright, and with that being said, I'm wishing you the best of luck in your endeavors, in your journeys, in your wars, and I'm wishing you much growth. So, take care.